With Roberto De Zerbi announced as the new boss of Tottenham Hotspur, making him the third manager of this Premier League season after the failures of Thomas Frank and Igor Tudor, it's that time again when we have to take a tactical deep dive into what we can expect from the former Brighton and Marseille coach. What can he bring to this Premier League side, and can he save Tottenham from relegation? So today on the Sonny Talks Spurs YouTube channel, we're going to be discussing how Tottenham set up under Roberto De Zerbi. But if you are new to the Sonny Talks Spurs YouTube channel, just discover me right here, right now, and get down below, leave your like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let me know in the comments down below, are you happy with the appointment of RDZ? So yes, guys, I'll give you my opinion first on the appointment. I'll be honest, I am really on the fence about this one. I still don't know whether I like it or not. And I'll be honest, the last few tactical videos I've done like this, which are some of my most and best performing videos on the channel about Thomas Frank and Igor Tudor, got my hopes up. I was quite positive. But with Roberto De Zerbi, I'm going to step back a bit. I'm going to reserve my judgment till I really see what De Zerbi has to offer and if he can be the guy to save Tottenham Hotspur from relegation. As we know, he is set to sign a 5-year deal. Bearing in mind this is a manager that doesn't stay at jobs long, and he usually falls out with the boards and the owners. So that's one worry off the bat. That is one worry that we have to take into consideration. The second thing, obviously, is, to me, his tactical setup. We'll get more into it as the video goes on. But on first look, is he going to be able to turn Tottenham's hopes around? I remember in his first 5 games at Brighton, he didn't win any of them. He didn't win a game when it came to his first 5 at Brighton. I think at Marseille he struggled as well with his first opening games. Same as some of his previous clubs as well. He takes a while to implement his system. And we all know his system. It's risk and reward, a bit like what we had with Ange Postecoglou. It's baiting in attackers. It's drawing the press and all that sort of trying to play around it. Can this Tottenham side do that? Well, we'll find out later on in the video and as we assess that. The positives, I guess, are that he is tactically one of the better coaches in Europe. I think he comes in to Spurs as probably one of the better coaches in the Premier League. Not so much with the upper echelon. I think he's in that middle row of like Eddie Howe, Iriola, Glasner types, maybe. So that's the thing. It does offset, like it is like moral dilemmas versus like a coach and his ability. And it is just, you know, it's not easy. It's not easy to digest as a Spurs fan, you know. We all have opinions, and I've seen like really different opinions on my timelines, on my social media. You know, some thinking it's a good appointment for various reasons, and some saying it's a bad appointment for very different reasons that are non-footballing, really. So with that all in mind, let's get into the crux of the video and looking into how tactically he will set up. And first of all, I've asked some experts that I know to see if they can give me a bit more of a deep dive on the Italian manager. But before we go further, a large majority of you are not subscribed to the Sonny Talks Spurs YouTube channel. What are you doing? You've got to join the Sonny Talks Spurs army. You know, we're trying to close in on 20,000 subs by the end of the season. If Tottenham get relegated or not, I want you to join me in starting, you know, this revolution that we call the Sonny Talks Spurs YouTube channel. So get down below, leave your likes, subscribe, hype the video as well, hit the notification bell, let you know when I've gone live as well. Without further ado, let's see what the experts have to say.
Hey guys, Dougie Critchley here. Sonny has asked me to do a quick whistle-stop tour of De Zerbi's career so far. I'll try and keep it as succinct as possible, but he has achieved a lot in his career. I've got some notes in front of me as well. My thoughts overall on this transfer, or on this appointment, I should say, is that he is the right manager for Spurs, but at the wrong time, I would say. I would have loved to see this guy come in mid-February instead of Igor Tudor when Thomas Frank was fired, but asking this guy to save Spurs with this few games remaining feels very, very difficult. It was the right level of ambition, I think, to go for him in February. Now it just feels a little bit desperate, especially given reports that they are making him one of the highest paid managers in the entire Premier League. But I'll go through his career so far. So this is a guy who had a fairly uneventful playing career as an attacking midfielder, but he got his first big break at Palermo with a club that had recently lost Dybala and Belotti. He didn't win at home in 3 months in charge of Palermo. This is in 2016, so things have developed since, and he was fired after just 1 win in 13 games. Not a very good side. He then goes to Benevento. Benevento were a newly promoted side. When he was in charge of them, he actually signed Sandro, the former Spurs midfielder, in his one and only January there. They didn't survive, but he earned plaudits for developing a possession style of play. They actually ranked 10th for possession per game in Serie A that season. In June 2018, he moves to Sassuolo. Now, this is where he really went onto my radar. Sassuolo played some of the most entertaining football in the entirety of Serie A. They finished 11th, 8th and 8th in his 3 years there. This is a club that had only got to Serie A for the very first time in 2013, so still relatively new to that level. But he developed players like Stefano Sensi. If you did watch Serie A in those years, a magnificent player, never really worked out at Inter Milan with a number of injury issues. Domenico Berardi went to new levels. Francesco Caputo, who'd only ever really delivered in Serie B, he ended up scoring over 20 league goals under De Zerbi. Demiral, Politano got moves to Juventus and Inter Milan after working with him. Locatelli too. He had a phenomenal record at Sassuolo. He then moves to Shakhtar Donetsk. Now, unfortunately, that only lasts 1 season due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Then he heads to Brighton. Now, people forget that he didn't have that summer transfer window. He arrived in September after Graham Potter was appointed by Chelsea. And in this first game, he kind of set his stall out. They drew 3-3 at Anfield. And it was one of the most entertaining games of the entire season. Leandro Trossard scored a hat-trick, I believe. And in that campaign, they got off to a really slow start, which doesn't bode particularly well. He doesn't win in his first 5 games, but by the end of the season, they'd beaten Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal and Chelsea, and been knocked out of the FA Cup at the semi-final stage on penalties to Man United. They eventually finished 6th. 4 Brighton players, including Evan Ferguson, scored over 10 league goals that season. That summer, they lose Caicedo, McAllister and Robert Sanchez. Less important, Robert Sanchez, but Caicedo and McAllister in the same summer. Many people expected them to struggle. They did slightly in the league. They finished 11th, but they got to the last 16 of the Europa League. They topped a group with Marseille and Ajax. I think that was a phenomenal achievement. They played some brilliant football under De Zerbi. He then leaves for Marseille in 2024. In his 1 full season there, he takes them from 8th to 2nd. They score the most goals they've scored in a league campaign since 2017-18. He's always found a way of getting the best out of his attacking players, whether it's Matoma or, unfortunately, Mason Greenwood at Marseille, which does bode well for a number of Spurs' forwards. But you're looking to arrest a slump that has seen Spurs plummet down the league, that has seen a massive lack of confidence in this squad. I think it's a big ask to save them. He was fired in February, despite only having failed to win 6 of their previous 18 games, but they had recently been absolutely smacked about by PSG and been beaten quite heavily by Club Brugge in the Champions League too. So that's the tour of him so far. He's always delivered in terms of getting attacking players going. This is a bit of a football disciple, in the words of Pep Guardiola and Marcelo Bielsa, very stuck in his ways and his way of playing. Actually, Pep Guardiola called him one of the most influential coaches of the last 20 years. Can he save Spurs? On player talent, you don't expect so. I mean, West Ham had a really dodgy result before the international break. Forest have recently beaten them. They've got momentum as well. I think they survive just. But De Zerbi, hopefully he lasts the whole 5 years. It does seem like a long, long contract. Sonny Talk Spurs fans, thanks so much for watching. Hope that was helpful. See you next time.
So yeah, it's a really tricky situation when it comes to Spurs. I was talking about it in my intro, looking at the current Tottenham squad, and this is sort of the part of the video where I'm going to get more tactically in depth. As I mentioned, Roberto De Zerbi, his Brighton side and his Marseille side, were comfortable with playing with the ball at their feet and out from the back. Their midfield, they used to play in sort of different formations, 4-2-3-1s, 4-2-2-2s. Sometimes the build-up was like a 3-5-2 or a 3-2-5, and the formations were endless in and out of possession. Roberto De Zerbi sides like having the ball. They like to dominate, they like to press, and they like to be on the front foot. It's something that we saw. Pep Guardiola said he was one of the most revolutionary managers in the last 20 years in the Premier League. There was high praise, I remember, from Jamie Redknapp at the time, saying he was one of the best coaches in the world, which shocked me. But at the time, when he was at Brighton, I thought his Brighton side was slightly overrated. I did think they weren't the best team that everyone thought they were, but he did improve certain talents. He had Alexis McAllister, who became better, and Moises Caicedo. He got the best out of, say, a Lewis Dunk. And what we learned from then is when they're setting up in this box formation that was always, something that was really important, you had the goalkeeper who had to be competent with the ball at his feet and would be moving the ball on and progressing it, basically like another defender. The two centre-backs would always put their studs on the ball. That was quite an interesting development, and draw in the press. And then midfielders had to be comfortable and getting on the ball, and that would unlock the wingers and make the striker more effective as well. So that, all in all, is what De Zerbi football is. But if we look at the tactical deep dive, which is on screen right now, we can see that, this was the last formation that Spurs played in a competitive match, which was obviously the Nottingham Forest game. It was set up with a back four. And I'll be honest, this is not what it's going to be like, really, is it? So, obviously, first of all, we've got to take Vicario out of the firing line because, he's going to be out for a month, and Kinski's going to come in now. See, Kinski comes in back into the side after having a tricky time at Atletico Madrid, where he really struggled. But I guess he's better at passing the ball compared to, say, the likes of Vicario and Brandon Austin. You then have, the centre backs. Danzo would probably drop out, and I'd say you'd get back to what we know and love, which is Romero and Mickey van der Ven, who are quite comfortable with the ball at their feet, especially Romero. He's probably one of our best line-breaking passers at the club. I would then suggest that, I could see Poro maybe going back into this position, and then Destiny Udogie coming back into the side, maybe offering a bit more width, a bit more attacking dynamic football in this sense. I think Tell will stay in the team. I think he will play probably as a winger. I'd suggest Solanke would play up top. Maybe if Richarlison would drop out. I think, the midfield is where it's going to be a struggle. Who is the most comfortable on the ball? I'd say it is Gray, and it probably is Sarr for that pace and a bit more, a bit more ability on the ball. I mean, Bentancur would probably be the easiest of the options, but this is how I see it. Then I think Xavi Simons would come back into the team. I feel like, a 10 would make more sense in that regard. And then you've got wingers. That's where it's tricky. Maybe that is a Richarlison. Maybe that is a Kolo Muani. I'll put in Richarlison for the time being. But I think you're more likely to see a bit more of this shape. But then there might be actually options where, so what's that? A 4-2... a 4-3-3 that sort of maybe changes. I mean, you could see as I mentioned, this box formation. You could end up seeing Simmons maybe drift out to the right and then Tell in these sort of positions as well. Solanke playing as the front two. And it's got to be a lot of more confidence on the ball that we have really not seen a lot from Spurs. I think the passing over the last couple of weeks has been quite poor. So it could be quite interesting to see what, De Zerbi is going to, and how he will set up this side. I don't know what we will see. I feel like, it is one of those things where the proof will be in the pudding. I just don't have confidence in the players. I think it's about, can the players deliver now? It's up to them, because they couldn't do it for Tudor, they couldn't do it for Frank. It's now up to them, really. And there is that risk factor. And Tottenham make a lot of mistakes leading to goals. That's where I think the risk is always going to be. But enough about what I've got to say, because that's where my opinions lie. But how have some other people reacted on TalkSport recently? How have the likes of, Ricky Sachs, Simon Jordan, and even Flav Batemen reacted? Because they've all had a bit to say as well.
You've got to try and get your head around it. So we've gone from one philosophy to another philosophy. I'll keep it purely to football, because I know, again, there's lots of different opinions out there just in general. But look, I think in terms of availability of candidate, profile-wise, I think he's probably one of the best out there right now. Whether I see it working long-term is another question. Oh, yeah, but I think in terms of the way in what he wants to play his football does fit in with how Tottenham see the way in which they like to play the game. Whether that's achievable now, I've got my doubts, because of the need to get results in the short term and the amount of injuries that we've got. I think my concern would be is that you look at the overall start he had at Brighton when he went in there, and again, I'm picking Brighton because they were the last Premier League club that he managed, and forgive me, Sonny, I think as we know, we were discussing this off air, he didn't win any of his first 5 matches. Yes. And we've got 7 matches remaining to stay in the Premier League. So in an ideal world, you'd want someone with an immediate impact, and it's whether he can get the message across to the players very, very quickly over his philosophy, his style, get that player buy-in from early on, or whether it's going to take some time. And the problem is, as you know, Sonny, we just haven't got the time. But I think, look, overall, if you're looking at the other candidates out there, all due respect, Premier League experience-wise, Sean Dyche, Harry Redknapp, Tim Sherwood, these names are being banded around, Chris Hughton, I think Roberto De Zerbi's CV, as well as his tactical nous, I think he's one of the higher level managers for sure. And I'm trying to forget the fact that it might be a long-term contract. Just think about 7 games. Can this man motivate this group for 7 games to get us over the line? And I do feel on that basis, despite everything that surrounds the appointment, ability-wise, coaching-wise, technical-wise, tactical-wise, he makes the most amount of sense despite how crazy it's taken to get here.
Yeah, I think he does come in as one of the better managers in the Premier League. I think, when we look at the Premier League as a whole, I think, you've obviously got the top tier managers. You've got Arteta and Pep and Unai Emery. But I think he sits in that tier below, where you've got like Iriola, Glasner, Eddie Howe maybe. I think he is in that sort of realm of managers. And yeah, I agree pretty much with what you say. It's one of those situations. I mean, I'm sure Kev can put the clip in. Me, Abby and Madge debating from a couple of weeks ago about De Zerbi against Harry Redknapp. To me, I don't think any of the Spurs names that were being linked to me, I don't think this group of players would get G'd up for any of them, whether it be Harry Redknapp, Tim Sherwood, Chris Hughton, Ben Davis, player-manager I've even seen, even though he can't be the player half of it because he's injured, which sort of sums up the whole situation at Spurs.
No, he was effectively operating with one hand behind his back, Sonny.
Yeah. But then what has changed now that we can say that he's going to come in?
Because we know that we made the mistake.
Yeah.
We should never have sacked him in the first place. We've had a nearly 7-year break. He's been at different clubs. He has won things in other places. I appreciate that.
I think he has struggled at a lot of the places he's been at as well. Like PSG, lost the league to Lille. USA, it's not been a great tenure as well. Don't be on the Poch train
when he comes home.
Whoa, yeah. USA. Who's going to be pulling up trees with the United States football team? Come on.
He should really. If he's that high caliber coach, he should be transferring that team.
I think you're looking at it from a completely different viewpoint.
Not on some football manager statistics XG business.
No, but
I'm in the business of watching it, right?
Yeah,
but they've both achieved the same. Like De Zerbi and Poch are both, I think, the same level when we look at them as coaches. What they've achieved.
What about the character and what about the person?
I think, but De Zerbi's got that character to come in and shake it up a little bit as well.
We don't need that. We
definitely do.
We had that as Conte. We've had that as Jose. Do you think that De Zerbi is going to last more than a year? We'll be sitting here in 18 months having the same conversation.
But that's what I'm saying. We want
Sonny, you're saying if we back him.
Yeah, we got.
What world do you live in?
We're not backing him.
I think with De Zerbi, it's like, people are saying he's been this 5-year deal and he's going to be backed in the summer. We're not thinking about in 5 years' time. We're thinking about in 5 weeks' time. That's the current situation. We've got to just go game by game, and we'll be talking about the run-in after we speak on De Zerbi, because that is where that's where he's going to be rewarded on. But it's taken a lot of money to get him into this situation. Ideally, he wanted to come in the summer.
I would imagine after getting beaten Nottingham Forest, the wheels are already turning to determine a different outcome. What they might have been doing for the optics of the circumstances surrounding this man is extending a bit of courtesy to allow it to drift for a week whilst they were making their own decisions about who they were going to employ. De Zerbi is creative. Yeah, he's good at creating chaos and disruption with people that he works for, but he's a capable manager, and you have to, at the end of the day, you have to put the players into the conversation, because the players are the ones that go and execute the outcome. How can the players possibly, in any parallel universe for the deluded one that he lives in, be excused from the outcome?
It's always a collective. But
well, of course it is, but it's always the players that skate away from the problem. It's everyone else that has the consequences of it.
Oh, no, I don't think they've been allowed to do that.
Well, they will do it at the end of the season. They've had a lot of criticism. If Spurs goes down, the managers will get sacked, people will lose their jobs, the football club will be financially hemorrhaging money, and the players will put their transfer requests in. And off they'll go to the various clubs, immune to the consequences. So it has to be that the real consequences of football failure has to be visited upon everybody, not just owners, not just managers, but it also has to be squarely put against the players. And when you look at who's going to fix this problem, I don't know. Ryan Mason, I don't know what does that achieve. We've seen what he achieved at West Bromwich Albion, which has put them in the bottom 3 of the division of the Championship. You look at Tim Sherwood. Well, you're not going to solve too many Mensa puzzles with Tim Sherwood, are you? But maybe he'll get them going for 5 minutes, and maybe he will. Harry Redknapp, I don't know.
You don't need to solve Mensa puzzles. You need to get them going to stay in the division.
Well, you do, because ultimately these players seem to be a puzzle. They've got players on that field that are perfectly capable of putting better performances, and somewhere or another they're not being reached.
Yeah.
So you do have to be able to have some psychometric evaluations of how you're going to get these players to actually want to overcome adversity the moment it comes knocking.
I think at the moment the sensible money would be on De Zerbi. But is this dressing room not capable of providing us all with a new manager bounce? Surely they would. Surely they would. This is a challenge they've got to reach up to and grasp, or else they're going down.
Yeah,
and they'll have played a part.
But they are. Of course, they can't. What seems to be the Spurs side, Martin can speak from the playing side much more articulately than I can. They can't cope with adversity. They're a front foot team. They're a flat track bully. If they're all right, they're on top. When it comes to being up behind, like they were in that Forest game, there was no parallel universe where I saw Forest, despite the fact Forest were assured in the first 20 minutes, I didn't see them winning 3-0. But the reason why they won 3-0 is because the moment Spurs had a goal conceded against them, there's nothing in the tank. They've got nothing left there to give back.
If I look at the last manager, just we get to half time and Van der Ven and Spence are going off. Both of those are international players. I really couldn't fathom out.
But he's a disgrace.
I couldn't. Yeah, but I couldn't fathom out.
But it seems
the previous
players
manager
can't cope with adversity.
From Tudor's point of view, it is quite an iconic 44 days. Of course, the most famous 44 days. Cloughie, at Leeds, isn't it? Really. Well, it looks like they did have someone in place, and it looks like they've persuaded him to come. I did ask the Brighton fans to get in touch. Paul, the Brighton fan, said, De Zerbi, we loved him at Brighton, but he is a very stubborn man about his ways. He will bin a few players straight away and will make several a lot better. The only thing I would worry about is it took him several weeks for the players to learn his patterns of play, and Spurs don't have the luxury of that time. Thank you, Paul. So, look, Gary Mabbott was calling for arm round the shoulder, really. We've had kick up the backside. I would imagine De Zerbi's probably more kick up the back. Probably even kicks him up the backside harder. Look, I don't know what the dynamic is of that dressing room. You'd like to think the people close to the club who've made this appointment do, although I don't completely trust him. In fact, I don't trust him at all.
In a general principle, it's got to be better bringing in somebody permanent.
Absolutely. Let's get the thoughts now of the Fighting Cock podcast's very own Flav Batemen. Hi, Flav.
Hello. Thanks for having me. In great circumstances once again.
Here we go again. So what do you make of De Zerbi as an appointment if it looks like it's going to happen?
Oh, mate, it's a complicated issue. I think if you had the choice, if we had the luxury of waiting until the end of the season and sort of looking at the managers that would be available, Pochettino, Areola, Glasner, De Zerbi out of contracts, that you just pick of certain managers that could fit within the profile of the squad already. But now it's like what Andy just said is like we kind of don't have the luxury anymore. You have to get someone in permanently. It would be such a gamble to give it to Ryan Mason, or that's everyone's preference. Is find an interim manager so we can hire Pochettino after the World Cup. But it's just we're not getting the results that give us that luxury, and so I'm not sure that De Zerbi is going to be the right man for the job should he join. But I don't think the problem begins and ends with him either, nor was it Thomas Frank football.
For the rest of the season, though, we have to park all of that. And I know it's not easy because everything feeds into that. All it's about now is De Zerbi and his coaches and that group of players. Nothing else matters. The relationship.
9 or 10. I've just worked out. Have 9 or 10 days with them on the training pitch before you face.
Yeah, most of them will be back Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah,
won't they?
and then you've got a whole week after that, haven't you? Because you're not playing on the weekends. So it's even longer than that. So he's got enough time on the training pitch to do something with them.
You would like to think. One thing I think we all, Flav, would like to see as Tottenham fans is players playing in their right positions. I think the first team he puts out, we'd like to see players that aren't being just sort of slung into holes and hoping for the best, because I think that was one of the things that Tudor had an issue with. And he has worked in the Premier League before, so he will have a knowledge of a lot of these players and will come up against quite a few of them. But that was a real issue under Tudor, wasn't it? There's no clarity, really.
You're West Ham, I'm Tottenham. Yeah. Spurs have sacked their manager. Well, he's mutual agreement, however you want to look at it, he's gone. There's massive talk of Roberto De Zerbi coming in, right? And I don't know why. I'll be honest, Coley, I'm a bit annoyed and a bit upset at some Spurs fans who I've seen all over social media. They don't want De Zerbi. And I'm like, no, like they don't want him. They're not having him. And I'm like, what planet are we living on that we think that we can dictate what manager we get? Roberto De Zerbi is a top Premier League manager. Top manager.
He led Brighton to a 6th place finish, the highest ever in their history. Right? He plays fantastic football, and his win percentage in the Premier League 42.7% with Brighton. Right? He is a top manager. He's in the game. He knows the Premier League. He's fresh. You know, we're not talking about getting, like a Harry Redknapp or a Tim Sherwood who, listen, I've done a good job, but we're talking about a manager who's at the top of his game, and people are moaning about him coming in. I don't get the argument. I don't get it. We're in dire straits right now, and we're getting a top quality manager who's going to come in and hopefully galvanise this group of players for 7 games, and then beyond that, then he can really work on, becoming the manager that we all think he was going to be. When he left Brighton, everyone was, obviously saying how good he was then. Went to Marseille. He done well at Marseille. I just don't get this narrative around him that we think that we're too good for Roberto De Zerbi. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's quite odd. I haven't heard any murmurs of that sort because I don't obviously follow the Spurs fan base, but is that what's going on Twitter and all that? Yeah.
Well, some of the supporters groups are not. They're not having it. They're not having it. I've seen people.
So what do they want? What do they want? Because De Zerbi's a top manager. He's a top manager. Listen, I was telling you outside. I think, listen, West Ham, we're in no place to start judging because we're.
No, you're terrible.
Calm down, but we're not as.
No, you're garbage.
Listen, we're good.
No, you're garbage.
No, we're better than you.
Well, you're not.
At the moment, we're better than you.
Where are you in the league?
Listen, look, why are we arguing? We're both poor. We're both bad.
Okay, but
all right. So we've done bad.
If you're saying we're good,
you're good. But you took a free fall. Yeah, but you're not good. I think we're better than you at the moment.
Where are you in
form?
League?
In form.
Where are you in the league?
Huh?
Where are you in the league?
Yeah, but that's only because of circumstances.
Answer the question. Where are you in the league?
What's this battle on relegation? I'm not on this. Listen, my mindset, is getting out of our situation. Yeah. But you're trying to bring me down to your level.
No,
I'm not doing it.
All I'm saying is
I'm not getting trapped in this. No, Jamie. No.
We're still above you. We've had the
Can I finish what I was going to say
in our history.
Can I finish what I was
going to say? West Ham.
All right, nice, man. Nice. You've been doing this a couple of years now, yeah? Flirting with relegation. This is your job, yeah? You felt how many times? No, I'm not even gonna go there. Anyway, right?
Go on.
This is what I was saying. De Zerbi deserves his chance at a team like Spurs. He's at the right time. It's the right time for Spurs to have a manager like that. I'm actually disappointed that you're getting that Igor's going because I thought we'd have a great chance of making sure that you go down. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
It couldn't continue with him. It couldn't.
But because was it 1 game out of 5 he won or something, or 2 games out of 6 or whatever?
He won it. We beat Atletico Madrid, but we still lost the game. The game's too late.
I think it's the players, mate. I keep on going back to this. I think it's the players. I think you could get how many top managers have you had at your club the last 15 years? You've had some of the best managers the last 15 years. You've had some of the best managers.
Yeah, but we haven't had them at their peak, right? We had Chelsea managers who were on the way down. Like Mourinho, we got him when probably he wasn't Mourinho, right? Conte, great manager. He was, but we weren't 17th with these managers, by the way. We're Champions League teams, finishing 4th, finishing 5th, in and around it. Yeah, and obviously, all right, you'd say, oh yeah, we've had these great managers. Well, yeah, but we weren't shocking. No, like this now, we're shocking. Yeah. Like we fell off a cliff.
Mate, listen, put it this way, yeah? De Zerbi will be good for you in the Championship next season. So it just make it. Let's just.
But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you make of the appointment of Roberto De Zerbi? Do you think it is right? And because there's obviously a lot of negatives and baggage with the appointment as well, not just because of his tactics. So let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you have enjoyed, leave your likes, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and also. Let me know in the comments down below all your thoughts and feelings. But yeah, until then, I'll see you guys pretty soon. Bye.